Sunshine Cathedral is a different kind of church, where the past is past and the future has infinite possibilities. This is the day our God has made. Well, I told you that we had a special guest today for Share the Chair, and so let's get right to it. Would you please welcome Monica? Now, it's Monica L?
Yes.
But I've only ever heard just the first name.
Monica.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So, he was one of the, there's 5 guys and a woman, 6 people in the show, and he's almost every scene, except when he's changing clothes, and he did 1 or 2 solo things. He does this big trapeze thing that's just amazing. And I was telling him earlier, I've been doing this Jesus thing for about 26 years, and it might be time for a career change.
We're planning on having lessons before we take
He's going to give me some lessons, right? So I just need to know that there is a senior category, right? And you will accept plus size people in the troop, I'm guessing.
We are working on a second cast.
All right.
We are taking auditions.
Nice. So there were Fran Drescher, comedians, drag queens, whoever's here, Leslie Jordan, they always seem to make a deal of this as a church. It's a performance space when they're on the stage, but it's also a worship space. Was this your first time to do this kind of performance in a church?
Definitely my first time performing in a church naked. So check that off the list. When I told my mom that, she was like, "What are you doing?" Yeah, I'll send you photos.
Now, let's try to keep it honest. You had paint on. You were totally naked. There was paint. There was fluorescent paint.
There was fluorescent paint, and I think we left a lot of it backstage. So we'll be scrubbing there.
There's something in the choir. There's paint in the choir, right? It was everywhere. So, well, what was that like for you, though? Like this wasn't a cruise ship or a gymnasium or a high school gym. What was it like to perform in a different space? Was it?
So, it was definitely different. Coming in here, when we walked into the space, we were like, all right, how are we going to turn this church into the world of erotic? And then eventually, as the structure went up, and then the curtains were put up, we eventually started to create, erotic, and it took us 3 days with a high lift and like a lot of hammering and nailing. So it was definitely a new experience, and we're now able to. We now know we can put this structure in a space like this. So it was all learning experience, and it still is.
So in most of the world, most of you are young, and in Florida, all of you are young. So let's be honest. There's a couple of guys in their 40s, but you're young, and so part of honestly, part of the hook, right, is that there's going to be young, beautiful people, scantily clad, doing amazing physical things. That's part of the look, right? It's going to be an erotic show. There's going to be skin, and that skin is going to be covering pretty people. But then people come here, and it's not just pretty people. It's a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful show. It's a story. It's empowering. People come to see beautiful bodies, I think, or to see what it's like, or how can that going on in church, and then they are transformed by this magical world you create. Is that the intention? Is the whole come see paint-covered bodies just sort of above, and then you see this amazing? Is that the design?
Yeah, definitely when you see the trailer of erotic or the posters, it is very explicit in a way, so people don't so when they come to the show, they don't realize like, all right, we're taking you on this journey. Kyle and Steph's how they met, and then all these different scenes throughout the show. So we want to put a sense of class to our production, and also creating art on stage, as well as showcasing our instrument, our bodies for you guys.
There are a lot of similarities between sexuality and spirituality. In both instances, people experience ecstasy. In both experiences, people have embodied and more than body experiences. But it's a rare thing where they are celebrated at the same time. This church is one of those rare places where we will celebrate this the spirituality of our sexuality. We celebrate our wholeness of our body, our soul, our spirit, and so you may see us praying in a bar or joking around in a church. It's because we're always who we are all the time. To see this show, obviously it's very spiritual, very erotic, but it's also very spiritual. There's this energy coming from the stage, there's this joy, there's this connection to something. A lot of people, when they come to places where spirituality and physicality are so enmeshed, they get uncomfortable. Does it ever make any of you self-conscious to be able to be doing all of that? I mean, you're telling a love story, and you're celebrating sexuality and LGBT issues, and calling for justice, and having fun, and connecting, and you've got church going on, but you've got church going on naked. Are you ever self-conscious about it, or are you aware of what you're doing and thrilled to be doing it?
I mean, at first when when I got into this production, I never really performed the way I did in a show like this, so it took a little bit of getting used to, but now it's like, as soon as I go on stage, it's more like a moving meditation. It's like I just forget about everything, and it's just about putting on a good performance for all our viewers that are watching that night.
All of you, at some point or another, do like these splits in the air, sometimes holding another person doing splits in the air. And you hold that suspended for a long, long time. I can't even imagine how strong people have to be to do that. How much do you train every week?
So when I first started service school at age 13, I was training between 6 to 8 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. Now that it is part of our job, so it is accustomed to our body. So now it's like I still work out like 7 days a week, but not as long. So when I'm not in performance season, I'm in the studio training, 4 or 6 hours a day. But then when we're on tour, you want to maintain your physique and also be able to perform 4 or 5 shows a week. So those workouts are cut shorter. So it's more about conditioning, and then instead of like working on new skills or creating a new piece, because when it's on tour, you're focusing on just the pieces that are in that production. So you want to avoid any kind of injuries when doing new skills. So it changes here and there.
There's a lot of rehearsal, there's a lot of setup and takedown, and then the performance itself is super physical. Right this minute, how many injuries do you have?
Well, I have an injured right knee, unfortunately, so lots of burns. So showers are rather painful right now.
Burns? Like
from the
friction
silks,
burns?
yeah, friction burns.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. Right?
Well, it's just part of the job. We're used to it. So.
Anybody in nurse and EMT want to help out? Anybody? Oh, look, I see him. Finally, there was such joy in the room. 5 nights. I mean, joy. People came, we're going to see pretty boys. And then they left saying, that was the most amazing thing. Some people were crying at some point. It was transformative for us. Do you ever experience that on this end of it?
You know what, even though it's the same show, every show that we do, that we perform, is different, because it also depends on the audience and how we're feeling, but definitely, the nights that we've been here, it's like we felt so much love and support from the community that, like, we literally put our heart and soul on the stage, and it's just been such an amazing experience here, and we cannot wait to come back here next year and do this all over again, and hopefully a new erotic show with a brand new cast.
Nice.
You know what?
I'm prepared to make him a deacon right now. What do you think? Maybe next year. Would you please thank the night for being here today?
As we continue in prayer. Holy One, miracle stories remind us that there are new ways to look at things and new ways to experience life. The greatest miracle is love, and we are grateful for it. Amen.
Amen. Today's gospel readings are miracle stories. We noticed in that first one that they were really concerned about the 5,000 men that were there. You saw a little ellipsis though in the reading. Part of the redacted part says, plus many women and children. So there were, we try to count every head in the room, when we're trying to figure out who's here. But they were mostly concerned about those 5,000 men, plus a lot of other people. Which just shows you that even in sacred texts, there are people who are marginalized, or invisibilized, or forgotten, or overlooked. And so it is our job in Scripture, just as it is in our world today, to see those who have not been seen, to see those who have been overlooked, to see those who have not been remembered or not included in the story. And so I'm guessing that that people had their daughters, their wives, their mothers, their sisters. So I'm guessing the crowd was meant to be 10,000, maybe 12,000. Usually, when you bring your family, there are all kinds of people. So maybe 12,000, maybe 14,000. In preacher math, it was 20,000. Right? So just lots and lots of people, but also in those, including people that we might otherwise overlook. So let us not overlook those who have been silenced in our scriptures, just as we shouldn't overlook those who are trying to be silenced or invisibilized in our world today. Now, the two stories that we heard, one about a feeding miracle, one about walking on water, I don't take either of those stories literally. I see them as allegories. And the miracle in each story is not so much the great feat that the story talks about. The thing about miracle stories is that miracles are experienced. I can be having a miracle right now, and you might not even notice. A miracle is an experience. So when I tell you about my miracle, I can't even explain my experience. Explanation is not experience. So I have to go over the top to try to get you to get some sense of what I've experienced. And so I start telling you about what it was like. They're after me and the waters just open up and let me pass and swallow my enemies up. That's what it feels like to get away. That's what it feels like to escape. That's what it feels like to have liberation or freedom. Or we're devastated, we're crushed, we're broken, we're in hiding. And it's like when we were all hiding together, but we were praying and we were seeking some kind of answer. It was like the room filled with a mighty wind and flames just burst out all over the place. And we got our second wind and we got the energy. We were renewed. We were able to go out and take on the world. And so when I use these big stories, it's to try to convey an experience. And we've made the mistake of literalizing the explanation and missing out on the experience. And so, the miracles of these stories aren't that bread went farther than it was supposed to, or that water seemed to be more solid than it could be. The miracle in each story is someone's willingness to confront a crisis, to do what could be done, even if it seemed inadequate to the need. Now, before we revisit those gospel stories, I want to share another miracle story with you today. It's the story of Loretta Mary Aiken. She was a star of vaudeville, and in the twilight of her career, she was known as a comic who was frequently featured on television, variety, and talk shows. But of course, she didn't go by Loretta then. In show business, she was known as Jackie Moms Mabley. Y'all remember Moms? Moms was a successful African-American performer in the days of Jim Crow. But that's not her biggest miracle. While she was performing, she would give bits of wisdom that had hidden meaning, warning adults to keep their eyes on what was really going on in the world, what was really going on in politics. She joked, "I tell children crossing the street, damn the lights, watch the cars. The lights ain't never killed nobody." A little allegory there. But she's probably best known for joking about her attraction to younger men, Reverend Ty. She liked men that were not, or according to her act, liked men that really weren't age appropriate for her maybe. She'd say, "If you ever see me with my arms around an old man, I'm holding him for the police." joked about liking younger men, but in reality, she was as queer as a Jerry Herman musical. She had children, and she took the name Mabley from an early boyfriend, so she may have been bisexual, but a male dancer sharing a dressing room with moms for the run of a theatrical production actually spilled her tea. He said that he shared a room with moms and mom's girlfriend. But Moms was also a gender bender. She wore house coats on stage and looked like an old sort of housefrau, but in the dressing room after a show, she put on slacks and a silk shirt and a fedora hat, and with her lady on her arm, go out for the evening. Her friends called her Mr. Moms. She was an African American in a society where white people held all the power. She was a woman in a business where men had most of the power. And she was queer in a society that at the time criminalized same-gender love and attraction. She faced racism, homophobia, and misogyny. She faced them all and lived her way, embraced her truth, and thrived in her career. That's a miracle. Moms Mabley faced her fears, and faced the storms in life, and faced perceived limitations, and because she faced them, she was able to overcome many of them. And that's the point of the miracle stories from the gospel today. And the first story, we see overcoming. We see overcoming by facing the issue. The same in the second. In that first story, we see a small sack lunch, fish and bread, just fish tacos for one. And somehow that little lunch fed a great multitude. Now, like I said, I don't take that literally. A sack lunch didn't magically feed thousands of people, but someone making an effort in spite of unfavorable odds, that's a miracle. This is a church that has been built on taking the chance. Sometimes things were hard. Sometimes things failed a time or two before they succeeded. Sometimes there was resistance. Sometimes people would say, how in the world are you going to do that? And sometimes our best answer was, when I know, you'll know. But we would take a risk. We started a feeding program with not a can of tuna in the place and no cash money. And now we're feeding over 300 people a week. We did what we could. That first week, what was it? 12 people? 9. That first week, 9 people. We did what we could. We could feed a few people. 9 has grown to over 300. And we're getting grants now. We're able to do it. The miracle isn't that we're reaching more people. The miracle is that we started in the first place. And because we started, now we are feeding more people. The miracle is that, right? The miracle isn't tacos for everyone. The miracle is, Jesus said, we have this little bit of resource and this great need. Let's just go ahead and do what we can and see what happens. That was the miracle. It was acting out of love rather than fear. It was deciding, you know what, we may be beaten, but it won't be by our own fears. So let's get going. Now in the second story, same thing. Peter, his miracle, he jumps out of a boat, right? And he starts walking at least a few steps. Jesus is walking on water. Peter wants to walk on water, takes a few steps. Then he starts to sink. But that really isn't a thing, is it? People don't walk on water. Have you ever once, and there are some faithful people in this room. There are some prayed up, sanctified, holy people. And I promise, every time you step into your bathtub, your foot went all the way to the bottom. Every single time, without exception. People don't walk on water. Now, erotic, Monica and that team makes me think that maybe some people can walk on air. But people, we can't walk on water. The miracle isn't walking on water. The miracle is that Peter got out of the boat. That's the miracle, is that he took a chance. He sees Jesus out there and he wants to get to him. And so he starts going in that direction. How are you going to do it? I don't know. What if you sink? I guess I'll swim. He takes a chance. It's not, the point isn't that nature was suspended. The point is that fear was overcome. He's way over here and I'm way over here. How am I going to get to him? Well, I guess I'm just going to start trying. And he failed. It didn't even work. He started sinking because he started having regrets. He started having doubts. He started looking back. He got overwhelmed by his fears and he started to sink, but not before he tried the impossible. That was the miracle that he got out of the boat. And I've seen you do that. I've seen you give hope a chance. You didn't know where it was going to lead. There was no guarantee of success, but you still stuck your foot outside the boat of comfort, the boat of what you had always known, the boat of what other people had told you had to be done. And I've seen you dare to hope and step out of your own boat. When you tried medical treatments, no guarantee of their working, but you gave them a fighting chance. That was a miracle. That was the birth of hope. Hope in a manger of despair, a place where hope had been told there was no room for it, but you still found a place and a way for it to be born. No matter what happened later, you knew the joy of hope come to life. That's the nativity. That's the miracle of the nativity. When you came out of the closet, and you all have, you may think you're in the closet, but we know. We know. We've all come out of the closet. We came out as gay. Or we came out as lesbian, or we came out as bisexual, or we came out as transgender, or we came out as gender nonconforming or gender queer. We came out as being an LGBTQ ally. We came out as believing in the all-inclusive, unconditional, never-ending love of God. We came out as believing that science is a real thing and we should pay attention to it. We came out believing that we are God's miracle and not God's mistake. We came out believing that God is no respecter of persons, but God's love is all-inclusive and embraces all people no matter who they are. We came out of what we have been in. To experience life in a better and more loving and more joyous and fuller way. We came out of despair and walked into the light of truth and wholeness and love. Hallelujah, that's resurrection. And when you found Sunshine Cathedral, after you had decided that religion was irrelevant or cruel or boring or prudish or superstitious, you were through with religion. And then you found a different kind of church. You found a church with an altar, a pulpit, and a trapeze. What? And your heart began to sing. And you left the old rules and the old prejudices behind, praise God, but you started to experience hope and joy and connection and love, and you started to believe that this is what God is. God is love, period. Not love but, not love for these people, not love but love, period. And you said a church that celebrates love, that's a church for me. You had an epiphany, a discovery. You discovered that all people have sacred value, and you were willing to give frankincense, myrrh, and gold, time, talent, and treasure to help others experience the joy that you found. You probably haven't walked on water, but you may have gotten out of the boat and faced your fears, and that is a miracle. You haven't fed the world, but you have, under Reverend Ann's leadership, done your best to feed Broward County, and we're getting better at it all the time. But we haven't fed the world, but maybe you have fed, or helped, or encouraged, or comforted someone. And that gesture did more than you even knew it could. And that is a miracle. And not only have you known miracles, but you have learned that you are a miracle. Just as you are God's miracle and not God's mistake. And this is the miracle.
The narrow street to see this man from Galilee, just a carpenter, some say, leading fools astray, yet many kneel to give him praise. and in his eyes a glimpse of power that sees the hearts of all men. You can know the Father's mind, speak the Father's words when you come in the name of the Lord. There is strength in the name of the Lord. There is power in the name of the Lord. There is hope in the name of the Lord. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. When my plans have fallen through, and when my strength is nearly gone, when there's nothing left to do but just depend on you and the power of your name. And as we call upon your name, your strength through weakness do show. You can know the Master's plan. Extend the Master's hand when you come in the name of the Lord. There is strength in the name of the Lord. There is power in the name of the Lord. There is hope in the name of the Lord. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. His name will be worshipped forever. Creator, Redeemer, and King, and King. There is strength in the name of the Lord. There is power in the name of the Lord. There is hope in the name of the Lord. Blessed is he who comes. Blessed is he who comes. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the
Thank you for joining us today here at the Sunshine Cathedral. If you're ever in the Fort Lauderdale area, we invite you to stop by and worship with us on Sunday mornings at 9 and 10:30 a.m. If you'd like to make a donation to the Sunshine Cathedral, or if you'd like to find out other resources that the Cathedral has to offer, please visit us at www.sunshinecathedral.org. Until the next time, we look forward to seeing you here at the Sunshine Cathedral.